in vintage. Bridget, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Molly. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to chat with you. You are in Providence for Style Week Northeast Season 14, so welcome back to Providence.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to talk to you about your sustainable fashion line. You're going to showcase some of your pieces with us here today, and then we got to get you out the door because you got work to do, right?
I do. I'm excited.
So we're really happy to have you here. Before we get into talking about your background, you are more than just a designer. You're an author, you're a professor, you're a mom. Before we get into all that other good stuff, let's talk a little bit about your clothing and have you showcase some of your pieces for us.
Well, I bought two pieces that I'm showing tonight. This beautiful monster, I like to call her.
So gorgeous.
And basically, it was an alpaca wool blanket.
That's
and
amazing.
So what I did was, of course, chop it up and recycle it into a pencil skirt, and then I made this cute crop top. Now the colorful print, this is a vintage, I want to say 70s fabric.
I'm just going to hold it up a little bit higher.
So I used the 70s vintage fabric with the alpaca blanket, and together I made this amazingly colorful piece.
This is absolutely gorgeous. So this is this new for this year, right?
New for this year, absolutely.
Talk to me a little bit about how you see pieces and you find pieces.
Well, this was a piece donated to me, the colorful piece, and I had it for a long time before I actually used it. And then this I found rummaging through a thrift shop, and it was a vintage alpaca. It was in great condition, and I think it was like $5, you know? So between the both of them, it literally cost me $5. So when I see pieces that grab me like that, I'm really a texture and a pattern person. So I immediately gravitate towards it, and it might sit for years before I ever use it, but I know I'm going to use it eventually.
You are incredible. This piece is beautiful. I have to show the back too.
Oh yeah, how can you forget the tails?
You gotta see that. Oh, this is just absolutely gorgeous. And like you said, the texture and the color are what grabbed me. And I think, and the detailing is beautiful. The way that you're able to incorporate that and make it look. Like you said, it is just absolutely
And I
gorgeous.
also like to have multiple uses because the whole point is that it stays in your closet forever. So it stays in your closet forever, one, because it's classic and one of a kind, but this top you could actually wear backwards. So
cool.
You get two uses out of it. So, you know, who's going to ever throw that away?
No, yeah, you can wear it in multiple ways. That's phenomenal. Okay.
And then the other piece is another one of my favorites. It's a kimono style.
Oh, this is gorgeous.
Jacket.
Oh,
and this is just several different pieces. Clearly this was the original sweater, which is why I included it.
Okay.
So that's how we got this blue here. This was an amazing, very, very tiny vintage dress. But it was too tiny for me because I was just going to keep it, but it was too tiny, so that means I had to destroy it. So that's the vintage dress. This is from the sweater, and this is an H&M leather dress.
Oh my gosh.
That I wore once, and
so beautiful.
it was so miserably sweaty that I knew I would never ever wear it again. So together it turned into this really cute kimono jacket.
Oh my god. Okay, so all right, so the sweater and the dress are two different. So these two are two different pieces.
Right. Oh
my gosh.
Right.
That's amazing.
Right. And then this is the leather
Wow.
H&M thing. So, you know, once again, I had these pieces all separately, and then, you know, magic happens, and you see, wait, that's the same. And the next thing you know, it turns into something else.
I kudos to you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to have you come back
Sure.
closer so we can chat some more. So talk to me about your line. So that's a sample of
Right.
what you can see tonight if you're interested. And then, of course, you have a website. You have videos on how you can inspire people, and we'll get into the book because obviously you've seen what she can do, and maybe she'll give you some inspiration too. But talk to me about your 2018 collection, a little bit about what it's about and what people can see tonight.
Okay. Well, the collection is called Ivory Tower, and when you do something like I do, which is everything's one-off and one of a kind, it's really hard to make a cohesive collection. So it's like, okay, so how am I going to group this all together? and every piece had ivory in it. So I was like, ivory tower, you know?
Love
So,
it.
I mean, that's how I have to do collections because they are each so unique. Like, how do I make them all make sense? So the collection is called Ivory Tower, and this is actually the first time I've ever made a collection where I didn't buy anything. So these are all pieces that I had in my stock. So not only is it sustainable because my brand is sustainable, but just the fact that no money was wasted on to buy new pieces. It was just made with what I already had. So it's like sustainable times 1,000.
No kidding. That's incredible. So how did you actually get into doing this? Because this is, I mean, if you go on to her website, which we'll provide a link to, you can see this is truly a labor of love. I've seen interviews that you've done. I've seen you work on inspiration, but I don't know how you have an eye for what you do, because I'll, cut a t-shirt and I'm like, nope, done, donate, or like use it as a rag, or make my dog wear it. But I mean, you are truly gifted at what you do, taking pieces, you have an eye for it. So how did you get into this? Did you like doing this kind of stuff when you were young, or?
Well, I did make horrible...
Maybe scoot over just a little bit more.
Okay, sure. I did make horrible doll clothes.
Okay.
They were all inside out and, one armhole. And, so I did sew when I was young. But it wasn't anything that I thought I'd pursue. It was just, I was obsessed with my dolls and I wanted them to have a lot of clothes. So you fast forward to, I went to FIT. So you think, okay, so you did want to be a designer. I went for buying. So really designing just kind of fell in my lap. I went to the thrift shop. I cut up a bunch of stuff for a fashion show in a talent show. And people wanted to buy it. And I'm like, okay.
Sure.
And so I kind of just ran with it. Like once I saw people interested in these, and I didn't know how to sew, so they were all chopped up, they were barely together. But it was something that made me want to run with it, and I liked the whole idea of giving clothes second chances. All of these things were in the store because people didn't want them anymore. And, I didn't feel sorry for them, but I definitely felt like I could give them, a new life.
Breathing new life into pieces. And some of the pieces you have are classic, and some, like you said, were just, you knew that it just wasn't going to work for you, so giving them a second chance for someone else. Talk to us about the fact that you want things to be either upcycled or sustainable, and how that's really part of your line, and really kind of a mission.
Right. Well, to be honest, when I first started, it was just a labor of love, and I just loved what I was doing. Like I was just gravitated towards the patterns and the textures, and I just loved chopping it up. And then when customers started buying, they'd be like, I just love that it's sustainable. I love that it's eco-friendly, because that's what we said 1,000 years ago. And so I was like, wait a minute, that's right. It just didn't even really dawn on me because I just loved doing it. So once I started to research and realize the tons of clothes that we throw away every year, and then once you learn the statistics, I mean, you really can't go back. I mean, I haven't shopped retail in over 10 years. I mean, all the gifts I give for Christmas are all used. Some people like that, some people don't, but that's what they get from me. And so once you get on that road, it's impossible to get off, really.
That's incredible. And from talking to people, you can understand that the retail industry there's a tremendous amount of waste. So being able to kind of cut back on that and spreading the word. Let's talk a little bit about some of your inspiration, because like we said before, you're not just a designer, you wear multiple hats. You also wrote a book, which is it's called Born Again Vintage, 25 Ways to Deconstruct, Reinvent, and Recycle Your Wardrobe. Talk to us a little bit about your book, because you're so good at what you do. You wanted to inspire others. And so being able to kind of help others dive into their wardrobe. Talk to us a little bit about your book.
Well, the book came when I was a newbie. So when I was approached by Random House, they stumbled across my stuff on a collective that I was at on Bleecker in New York. And proposed this idea, and of course secretly inside I'm like, what, look, I was that new, so I didn't get it, but of course I'm not going to say no, so I said, sure, write a book. And once the book came out, and like I said, because it's a labor of love, I was just chopping up all types of pieces, And initially, you had this wave of just inspiration, and people were like, oh my God. And then you had the vintage enthusiasts that were like, you know, picketing and rioting because I was like cutting Chanel, and I didn't care. It was like, whatever is off limits, I'll cut the curtains, whatever it is. So, you know, so now that I'm a veteran, let's say, I know what to do. I usually only work with soiled or donated pieces. I don't shop designer anymore. And so, you know, so I've filled my way through the whole thing. So now I'm very focused, let's say, on just the sustainable path and trying to teach people and think outside the box. Not everything has to immediately be trashed because it has a hole or it's too small.
Yeah, if you saw something that was Chanel and you wanted to chop it, right?
You wouldn't tell anyone.
Right, I mean, you could make something cool out of it. Why not?
Right.
I'm not in the business. I don't know. But I say, hey, you know what you're doing. I'll let you do it. So, I mean, if that book was in the very beginning stages, you're a veteran now.
Yeah.
Book number 2, maybe?
Yeah, I'm actually done with book number 2.
Okay.
You know?
When can we get our hands on it?
Very soon. Actually, if you go on my website, you can get a preview copy of the
Cool.
book. But the second book is called 27 Dresses. And it's basically an inspirational guide to all that formal wear that we just collect.
Oh, cool.
The maid of honors, the bridesmaid, the wedding dresses. I cut my wedding dress after I got divorced and made 4 pieces.
That's amazing.
And sold all of them. So, you know, it's just, like I said, giving people inspiration that you don't have to have that piece sit in the closet forever. There's something you could do with it. So I use 27 dresses, all types of formal party, and just showing you different things that you could do with it.
That's cool. I love that
Yeah.
idea because how many people are out there that have prom dresses, bridesmaid dresses, formal cocktail dresses that
Right.
are like, it doesn't fit or there's
And
a
every
stain.
time I go to the thrift shop, I mean, literally it's like a whole wall of wedding dresses or a whole wall. And I'm like, jeez, what can we do with these things?
What do we do with them? Oh man, mine are sitting in the basement. That's awesome. I think that's exciting. So my question for you is though, if people are inspired, people see your line, they want something, or they see what you're doing and they want to do something too, but say they can't, so, or they're not, maybe they try to connect the dots, but they just can't connect them quite as good. What message do you have for people that are interested in this?
Great question. Because the class that I teach at FIT is clothing reconstruction, and I would say half the students all feel, well, I can't sew, I can't take the class. I teach hand sewing, and we don't even use sewing machines if you don't know how to use one.
Wow.
Just to not give you an excuse to say, I can't do it because I don't know how to use a machine. So there is 0 excuses.
All right.
And just think there's glue guns. I mean, there's a lot of way to upcycle without sewing.
All right. So no excuses,
No
people.
excuses.
So if you see something, just try it out, right?
And cut it up. Just make sure it's not Chanel.
Okay, it's not, as long as it's not Chanel, it's fine. Maybe practice on a couple of t-shirts,
Right,
a couple
right.
of t-shirts.
Start
or towels.
small.
Okay, that's the advice. Start small. Talk to us a little bit about so you're a professor at FIT in New York. Talk to us about what that's been like for you, being able to work with younger, maybe they're not younger population, but work with new people up and coming.
Well, you know, it's really exciting because initially it was only how to build a vintage business. They weren't ready for clothing reconstruction 10 years ago.
That's so cool.
It is. It's like,
That's
so
cool.
we started with how to build a vintage business, and then 7 years ago they were like, okay, I think we're ready for clothing reconstruction.
Wow.
So once I start teaching that class, and you fast forward from when I started to now, and I would say more than 80% of the class are students from abroad who are pursuing sustainable fashion.
Wow.
And it gives me chills because now I know a wave is coming because more and more students are taking that and going with that career. So that means, you know, I think in 5 years we'll probably have such a flood of sustainable fashion from amazing designers from all over the world.
That's incredible.
And I was a part of it.
Heck yeah. And you were here, you're talking to us, you're at Providence, you can find her stuff online. My other question for you is if people want to come see you, do you have a store?
I don't have a store other than the website.
Okay. So if people want products, do you make them specifically for them? Can people say, hey, I'm looking for this? Like, how can people find you, buy your stuff? Are they like, I want something made from you? Like, how do people contact you?
Well, they can either go through the website, Facebook Born Again Vintage, Instagram Born Again Vintage, but a little secret I'll tell you only. I am also planning to come out with an app. called Cut Tour by Boarding and Vintage.
Awesome.
Where people are able to send me those sentimental pieces and I'm able to reconstruct them into something else. Because I'm getting such a flood of requests, so make an app.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's cool. So
that's in the works.
Essentially I could send you like, hey, this was my grandmother's.
Absolutely.
And make me something new.
That's right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So launching soon?
Well, I'm pushing for Earth Day, but I don't want to say that in case I can't pull it off.
Okay. So we'll say soon.
Yeah.
Launching soon. That's so cool. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, and I think that's such the way that things are going. And I was kind of curious too, if people interested, because you never know with like sizes and that kind of thing. So.
Well, and that's been my issue too with people ordering online, because it'll say fit sizes 2 to 6, and then like,
and what
how
does that
it fit
mean?
2 to 6?
Yeah, like.
But the thing is, I usually use elastic waist.
Awesome.
I usually make pieces so it has that wide range, because really, at the end of the day, the goal is it stays in your closet.
Exactly.
So it, it grows with you.
I like that.
Or it shrinks with you, whatever.
I love that. I love that. Bridgett, this has been so much fun. Thank you for chatting with us today. I hope you enjoy Style Week and enjoy your time in Providence.
I will.
Awesome.
I'll
I'll give you a hug. Yeah. Awesome.
I'm a hugger.
I like hugging too. All right, everyone, we're going to get set up here for our next guest here on Go Local Live, so hang tight.